Hello, everyone. This is Sincere of Teacher Sincere's channel, and welcome. Well, I've been on a roll for the past few days, but it's going to end. Okay, it's going to end here with this video, and I will be going back to making a video every now and then. I don't have a schedule, like I said in an early video. I do not plan to be on a schedule anymore. I just plan to, whenever I have time or I feel like it, I will be producing a video, posting a video up. I really want to get back to doing videos like these little mini documentary things you see on my channel. The last one I did was about Afra Bean's novel Orinoco. So I want to go back to that, and that's what I plan to do, is to go back to doing that again. But lately, because these are much more quicker to put up, and I've had a good bit on my mind, I thought I would do these much more faster talks. Uh, so this is what this is another talk, and it concerns parental protection or freedom, and whether freedom is always good. Okay, being free to do as we please, it's always good to be able to do whatever we want, whenever we want, rather. So I'm going to talk about two stories that I was told by two of my students. One of my students who is Brazilian and one who is Saudi. My Brazilian student, I refer to him as my son, and he also says that my mother and I are his family. And when you look back on the transatlantic slave trade, it could be possible that we're related, because one of the first stops here in the West was Brazil. And then after they dropped off Africans there, they would come up here to North America and deposit the Africans in these lands. So who knows? You just never know. But there is a strong connection there. And I just, there are a lot of different things I could talk about that, or a number of things I could talk about that make me think that we might actually be related. But there, of course, is a spiritual connection. I feel like he's a son I never had. But anyway, and then the other student is in Saudi Arabia. She is a young woman. I forgot what her profession is because she hasn't been coming that long, and she doesn't come regularly. She comes, like this week, she's taking a break. Um, she will come. She has her time. She will come, and then maybe she gets busy with work and things with family. But yeah, I'm going to talk about what she told me. Both of them told me two interesting stories recently. So I'm going to start with my student in Brazil, my Brazilian son, as I call him. He was telling me, he had told me long ago that when he was 5 years old, his father left his mother for another woman. And his mother was left alone, and they were impoverished, and she raised him on her own. She worked. And many times, he was telling me the other day that many times I was left alone at home. I only had cold food. I wasn't allowed to my mother wouldn't allow me to, turn on the oven and try to cook anything. She was too afraid maybe of, place catching fire. And they lived in a rough neighborhood. Okay, he didn't say if it was the favela, but I'm thinking it probably was. Favela are these sort of like these massive impoverished areas, neighborhoods in Brazil. And one of my students said they have their own laws. He said here in Brazil, the police are too afraid to go into the favela. And so, but he grew up where, and he says his mother still lives in the same area. It's crime infested, he says, but my mother's a brave woman. He said, and she said, and actually, the young gang members that live in the area, they actually see her as their auntie, so she doesn't have any problems, too much, worried about that she might, get robbed or killed by them. But he was saying that his mother, when he was a child, she would not allow him to go outside when she was not at home. He could not go over and visit the homes of um, other children in the neighborhood. Um, Likely she didn't know what was going on there, but she would try to protect her son. Okay. She knew where she was living and she just was trying to protect her son. And he was saying that many of the people, my friends that I had, they're no longer around. He said they're either dead or in jail. They got into crime, robbery, gang activity, drugs, and they're gone. And he's still here at age 38. He is an electrical engineer. He is married and he became a father. It'll be 1 year next month. He has a young son, a toddler. And so, for a lot of people that feel that people should have, he should have had more freedom. The children should have freedom. The children should be able to do, whatever they want or be able to play with other kids. They're just kids, it's okay to play with them. Um, they may feel like his mother was too strict, made him too soft, made him a sissy. But let's look at it this way. What would have been better for her to be strict like she was and said, you can't go out, you can't go over to friend's house. I don't know what's going on, what could happen over there. I don't know what kind of people these people are. I don't want you over there. Maybe they could have drugs or something in the house. Who knows? Um, or would it have been better that if she had allowed him to do what he wanted, have more freedom? And what if he had ended up like his peers? So which is better? Is the freedom more important? Being able to interact with other children? Or was it better in his case? Was it better that she protected him? Okay. So we have to weigh things in the balance. People tend to think, people start thinking in a certain way, a lot of people are locked into a way of thinking and they can't get themselves to come out of that way of thinking, even if that sort of way of seeing things is destructive. Okay. So that's what I want to ask about that. Okay. Think about that with him. Okay. Was this parent overprotective? Okay. Or would it have been better for her to have let him run free in that area? Okay. Second story I was told by my Saudi student. I started teaching her, it was several months ago she came, and she sort of sometime comes. Okay, sometimes she'll get on a regular schedule and then then I guess busy with work, too tired, whatever. Now she has a career, she's single, and she told me the other week that her sister had gotten a job and in another city, and so they had moved there. She had went with her sister, and her father had went with them. Okay. Now in Saudi Arabia, before the crown prince Mohammed bin Salman started to more liberalized the country. Now, not liberal to the extent of what we think of in the West, but when he started to relax more of the restrictions and gave more freedoms to people to sort of women driving, different things like that. Women being able to, women can go to sports events, different things like that, have concerts and everything. But still, males and female that are not family, that are not family members, they don't freely interact in Saudi Arabia. In Islam, dating is haram. Okay, and Islam that is practiced like Islam, they say it is haram, and haram means forbidden. Okay, now you will see dating in some Muslim countries like Turkey, where you have half the population is fairly liberal, okay, and the other half of the population is conservative. You will see it in maybe parts of Lebanon among the Christian population, but 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 uh but like I said, dating is considered haram in Islam. And I remember the other year I was teaching a young man. I taught him for I guess about 9 months. He was Jordanian, and there was a question that we had during the lesson, something about dating, and I sort of figured what he was going to say that no, we don't do this. But I read the question and he was saying, no, we don't do this. No. I said, well, how do you get together? How do people marry? He said, this is against our religion. No, we don't date. This is against our religion. I told him, I understand. I said, so how do you get together? How do people marry? How do they get together in Saudi Arabia? He said, I'm not Saudi Arabia, Jordan. He said, well, in Jordan, our mothers will seek a young woman. She will look around and try to find a young woman that she feels would be a good wife for us. Okay. He says, but we are not obligated to marry her. Okay. Our mother, she'll check out, she'll ask around. She will check out, visit the young woman's family, interact with the young woman, see how, see what, try to get an idea of what her character is like. Would she be a good wife? Would she be good? Be a good homemaker? All that, But he said, but we're not obligated to marry the woman that our mother suggests for us. Okay, but that's how they get together in Jordan. They don't date. Okay, Saudi Arabia totally out of the question. No dating. Okay, how they get together in Saudi Arabia is I was told by a student. I said, do they arrange your marriage? She said, no, not really. What we do in Saudi, a man will hear about us and he will ask for our hand in marriage. He will come to our house and either ask our father. If our father is dead, we will ask our older brother or the oldest male in the family. Okay, and that's how how it's done in Saudi Arabia. But so this young woman, her sister got a job and they moved to another city and their father went with them because even now Saudi women can, I think they can live alone now. They can study outside the country, but a lot of people are not going to, think, with big changes like this, a lot of people are just not going to let their daughters do this. Okay. A lot of them are not. Now I've taught some Saudi women that are studying abroad. I think I taught one that was single, but the others that I've taught that are studying outside the country, they're already married and their husbands are usually their husbands are students. They're both students. So, but her father, her mother is back home in their hometown. And I said, is she coming? Is she going to be with you? She said, no, my mother is staying back in her hometown because my sister is still in school. And my sister, they don't want to force her to have to go to another school. So she's back there and her mother will visit them or they will go back and her father, they'll go back and visit. Okay. Her mother came, she was telling me the last time I talked to her that her mother had come to visit and it stayed about 3 or 4 days. And then she went back home. And so before different restrictions were relaxed, Saudi women could study abroad, but so go to university abroad, but they had to have a brother or somebody like that, or be married and go. Okay, they couldn't go alone. I think the restrictions now have been lifted and they can study abroad alone. But so a lot of people would say, now her father is this man is a nut. Why? He's crazy. His daughters are grown women. They are adults. Why does he feel he has to tag along and stay with them? Okay. Now, in Saudi Arabia, like I said, men and women that are not related, they don't interact. Okay. Men and women have their separate worlds. Okay. Even with their weddings, the men are separate. They have their separate part where they celebrate the wedding, and the women have their part where they celebrate. Okay. So you would say, well, why is he doing this? They're already separated anyway. Well, a young African American woman that was running a channel about 6 years ago, and she was teaching in Saudi Arabia, teaching at a women's university. And she was saying in Saudi Arabia, sometimes men will they'll see you and drive by slowly and beckon for you to come and talk to them. She said, but she said, it's no way. I would not do it because it's against the law. You're not supposed to do that. She says, also another tactic they will to try to communicate with you is they will write their phone number on a strip of paper and throw it out, be in a car and throw it out of the window, slow up and throw it out of the window, hoping that you will get that phone number, okay? Get the phone number and call them, okay? So I had one young Saudi student. I had a Saudi student way back. He called one time. He was a teenager. He was 17, I think, and he had actually met a girl, a Saudi girl, online. Okay, but he had not, but they had not told their families about it, and he had made up his mind. He was 17. I think he said she was 18 or 19. She was already starting university. He was finishing high school. And he said he had already made up his mind that he wanted to marry her. But they both had to finish school first. She was in school, already starting university. He was finishing high school. He had made up his mind he wanted to marry her. So he told me, I'm going to marry this girl. Okay, I'm going to marry her. He said, but I can't tell my family how I met her. We can't say how we met. We met online. So he told me his entire strategy of how he was going to go to her town, because she lived in another city in Saudi Arabia. He was going to go to her town. He knew where she lived. He was going to sort of try to hang around in her neighborhood a little bit and see, uh and he knew which house she lived in, and her brothers. He was going to try to communicate with one of her brothers. He hung around and maybe strike up a conversation with one of her brothers when one of them came outside. And then that way he could open the door where he could go and ask for her hand in marriage. Okay. So he told me his entire strategy. He did. This happened way back. I still get some interesting calls, but I have gotten some really, I've had Arab students, Arab women, Arab people just call me, particularly some of the women, just to talk about different things, just talk about personal stuff. One talked to me about, she was getting married and she wanted to work, but her family did not want her to work. She said, they just want me to sit at home and look pretty. She said, I want to be a personal trainer. I want to be a trainer for women. And because Saudi Arabia has women gym, men and women don't go to the same gyms. They have separate gyms. So she said, I want to be a personal trainer. She said, but I'm having a hard time because they say I'm not tall enough and I'm a little too heavy. I mean, she was gorgeous. She was beautiful. And I asked her, I said, well, your fiance, um, what does he say about you working? Does he have a problem with it? She said, no, it's just my family. They said we just get married and all you have to do is just stay at home and look pretty and have babies. She said, I don't want that kind of life. She said, I worked as a secretary and she said, I have a master's degree. I want to work. And she was saying, and I asked her about him. She said, he said it's okay. I said, have you talked to him, had an opportunity to talk to him any? She said, yeah. And she said, he said that it's okay if I work as long as it's not in a mixed environment. And by mixed environment, she said, men and women together. Um, but yeah, it's very interesting about these cultures. These cultures are, if you read the Bible, portions of it, the Bible is like really, and portions of it's like an Arab book in a lot of ways. And I think that's one of the many reasons why people can't relate to the Bible. Even a lot of Christians can't because, and I did try to read. I read half of a book this year. The Bible was written in Arabia by Kamal Salibi, who was a Lebanese Christian. And his theory was that the Bible was written in Arabia, not in Palestine and these other places. Um, but um, but but think about this young woman whose father went with them, her and her sister. Now, is he a complete tyrant and a nut? And what do you think of this? What if Saudi Arabia had a much more liberal culture, okay, where things were totally relaxed and it was like the United States, Europe, certain parts of Asia, parts of Africa, where South America, um, where you can date, and they are allowed to have boyfriends, and boyfriends can come over and stay, or they go over to their place and stay. And what if they got pregnant? One of them got pregnant, or both got pregnant, and then the guy says, I've had my fun. I'm gone. Okay, I'm gone. Um, which has less peace to it? The father protecting them, and she doesn't have any problem with it. She was saying, my father cares about his family. He protects his family. That's what she said. My father protects his family. You probably heard a lot, might have heard a loud car. Um, I remember my father saying that if his daughter married and a guy abused her, he would kill him. That's what my father said, my late father. My father was, my father had his faults, but one thing I can say about him, he was protective about his women. Okay, his daughter and his wife. I did not have much full freedom until I was about 30. Okay. And I look back on it now. Now, when I was younger, I wanted to be like the crowd. I wanted to be like everybody else. But I look back on it now and I'm glad that I was raised in a strict way. Okay. It helped me develop very strong values over time and to see life, I feel like, in a much more balanced perspective. So which would be better for them, to be free and this sort of thing happen to them, to be free and open where men can come and go and, you know, make promises and say things about I love you and all this. And then they, when they get what they want, they're gone. Or is it better that their father is there to protect them, and then up the road, when the right guy or a man comes along and asks for their hand, they won't have all of these things and look back and regret and say, I wish I hadn't done this. You know, what we do have repercussions in this life, and many times after we're gone, what we did will have repercussions for the people in our lives, even after we're gone. Okay. Um, Scars develop in this life, and the scars are still there after this life is over because it's left to people afterwards that come after the offspring, other family members, all this sort of thing. So I think that what we have to do, we have got to start doing, those of us that are in the West and those of us that are Western oriented, okay, that worship at the altar of the golden calf of the West. The West is better than anywhere else because the West is better, more knowledgeable. Women are treated better in the West, even though women are often abandoned with kids and no protection. And I was looking at an African American woman today. She has a channel. She is a homeless woman. She has been homeless for 12 years. 12 years. So many of these countries like this, there's no homelessness. Okay. Homelessness only happens if there's a war. Okay. But we say we are so advanced, but at the same time, we're open, we have no protection. And there's another YouTuber, this African American woman, she talked about, you know, African American women not being protected, no protection. It seems like Black women worldwide in many places are not protected. I mean, when you have, I'm looking at stories on this one channel, that's a channel from Kenya, women, stories of African women going to the Middle East and working, and one of them got pregnant by an Arab man, and all this kind of stuff. So it looks like we're not too protected anywhere. A lot of Black women, African women, women in the West, that we're just sort of fair game for anything that comes along. So, but like I said, to each his own. Some people may feel like this is the best way to live. Being this way may be the best. You might feel like it's better for you. It's the best way. Whereas these women in these countries where they have male protection are stupid and oppressed, and the men are stupid. You may see it that way, but I'm just putting us out here um, as something to ponder, okay? Because that's something that we need to do. We don't do a lot in the West. We're either working or being entertained. A lot of people in the postmodern world, they don't want to have to think. They want to be entertained. They want to be in some sort of fantasy world or something. They don't want to have to deal with the hard cold truths about a lot of things. Myself on my channel, I love history, I love art, I love literature, but I'm also very much a realist. And I also want to see a world where people don't hurt themselves so much in the name of being free. Because a lot of times when you're free, too free, you can have too much freedom and you can get hurt, and it can have a lot of repercussions. Okay. So I'm going to end here. This is just something to think about. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new, something to ponder. This is Sincere Ray. Until next time.